Good evening and welcome to tonight's City of Burnside Council meeting of the 26th of April 2023, opening at 7 p.m. Welcome to everyone here and to those who are watching from home. Just to alert you to the, sorry, that's from last week, alerting to the change of the date of the meeting to Wednesday for tonight. Before we begin, please turn off your mobile phones or place them on silent now so the meeting is not disturbed, and mask wearing is optional. Please stand and remain silent during the acknowledgements. We acknowledge the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. We pay respect to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting and attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to all those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We also consider in our thoughts all those who today are being affected by war around the globe, and especially those in Ukraine. Finally, we seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in, or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. You will, of course, need to use your microphone to register your intent to speak or to enter the debate and wait until you are asked to speak. Please turn off your microphone when you have finished speaking and be respectful of and patient while listening to each speaker without interrupting or interjecting during the debate. Each person has 3 minutes with a warning bell at 2, and a reminder tonight that you only get to speak once unless you are the mover of the motion, and if you have a question, limit your preamble and try to get to the point. We have apologies from, of course, Councillor Cornish, who is still on leave, and from Councillor Henschke. Declaration of interest reminder. I believe the CEO.
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to declare a conflict in item 11.1 as I sit on the board of Water, and the way I intend to deal with that is declare it but remain in the meeting to be able to answer questions should they arise.
And Councillor Jones?
I have a similar conflict of interest in that I am on the audit committee of Water, and I intend to deal with that by remaining in the meeting.
Thank you. Now we move through confirmation of minutes. I seek a mover of the minutes of the last council meeting. Councillor Harvey.
I would like to pull it, please, and I would like to move a motion amending the minutes.
Right.
That the minutes of the meeting held 11th of April 2023 be taken as read and confirmed with the following amendments to Resolution 11.1.
Just slow down for a minute. Do we have that in print? Okay. Just wait till we've got it up on the screen. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Under conflict of interest, to make the following amendment that Mayor Monceau dealt with her interest by leaving the chair and moving to the public gallery to hear Councillor Davies' personal explanation and then leaving the chamber for the debate. And at motion C110423/13405 to make the following amendment that the Mayor Monceau left the chair at 7:10 p.m. and moved to the public gallery. Thank you.
That's good. At what time? That's factually correct. Right. I need a seconder. Councillor Davey.
Thank you. I'm happy to second that, Mayor.
Right, I put the motion as it now reads, unless anyone wishes to speak. Councillor Davey?
Oh, sorry. I'm happy to put the motion.
Right. Unless you want, I've offered, unless anyone wants to speak.
Could I just ask a question? So we're moving that and incorporating into the minutes?
I understand that's what's been asked.
Through my understanding is we're moving the minutes with this addition.
Right, so now I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Now I'll move to deputations. We have first deputation from Mr. Andrew Wong. If you'd like to come to the table in the centre here, Mr. Wong. And once you've settled, just give your name and suburb that you live in, and then you'll have the 5 minutes as I've explained. Thank you. Have you got the microphone?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. My name's Andrew Wong. I live in Toorak Gardens, and I've been there for about 12 years. I actually came to Adelaide about 44 years ago, believe it or not, and I grew up in the Unley neighbourhood and Unley High School, and went to Adelaide Uni. I'm currently a chartered accountant, got my own practice, but I'm here for one reason. I'm actually here for one of my passions. I'm here to fly the flag for the sport of badminton. You probably haven't seen much of it or heard much about it, but just today, this afternoon, South Australia just won a bronze medal at the National Championships for teams event, and we punch above our weight in the whole nation when it comes to badminton. I'll tell you a few more facts, if that's okay. Over 300 million people play badminton around the world. Okay, that's a lot more than a lot of other sports that you might be aware of. Over 300 million. And in Australia, in the last 2 years, growth has been more than 75,000 over 2 years. So that's over 300,000 people in Australia play badminton right now, and that amounts to a few thousand just in South Australia. That's competition and social players. It's a sport that caters for all ages, across all generations. We have a thriving junior program, and at the other end of the spectrum, our largest membership growth is actually our veterans over the age of 35. For the many participants in South Australia, we really only have 16 dedicated courts in the whole of this state for thousands of players. And everyone else plays in multi-purpose gyms around the state. Gyms and schools which really are not ideal because of their surfaces, plus all the multiple lines that are there in those courts, but we have little choice. The facility in Lockleys, which is the only public facility, is owned by Badminton South Australia and the West Torrens Council, has only 7 courts and is regularly overbooked, unavailable, so the demand for courts has completely outstripped the supply. So there's literally thousands of people playing in schools as well. Many schools are represented in our state program right now, which includes PAC, Saints, which has over 140 students playing, Pembroke, Glenunga, Marrickville, CBC, Norwood Morialta, Emmanuel. These are some of the top schools that are playing right now. And 3 of the players in South Australia, three of the players in the Australian junior squad are actually from Adelaide. 2 of them from Unley High and 1 from Glenunga. And our current head coach of the national team, Leanne Chu, is a former double Olympian who grew up in Glenunga as well. So you can see that I'm going to come to a point where you ask the question, why am I talking to the Burnside Council? Well, why Burnside? Well, if I'm not mistaken, a large percentage of constituents who live in Burnside are from China or from Southeast Asia. And guess who the majority of the players of badminton are? Majority of them are Chinese or Southeast Asian. And there's no doubt the growth in this area is continuing year after year. So therefore, as part of the Sports and Recreation Master Plan for the Council, I would propose that badminton should be in the mix. It's an area of need that's crying out to be met. And in 44 years in Australia, I've always had to travel to the west to play. There's nothing on this side of town. It's 15 kilometers to the nearest badminton facility from this side of town. South Australian badminton needs a lot more support, and it's often forgotten about. But as I said earlier, we punch above our weight when it comes to our achievements. And even last year, I was the manager of the state team, for the under-17 state team that won the bronze medal in our national championship again. So there's a lot happening here that probably you're unaware of, but the opportunity, I think, is there to at least consider the sport and not just brush it aside with all the other not so well-known sports when you realize the number of people that are actually playing it and the number of people in your constituency that actually play. Just in our veterans alone, you can come down to Lockleys on Saturday afternoon and you can probably tell half of them are your GPs from your local neighbourhood. You know, they all live from this side of town, travelling all the way there, and they'll be the first to say, we need more facilities in South Australia. So what do we need? Well, a badminton centre is not actually what you'd possibly imagine. It's not like a traditional gym where it's bright and breezy. In fact, it's the opposite. We actually need like a really dark box because it's better served by a dark atmosphere. It's not a noisy sport. You don't have people carrying on like other sports out in the open. people come and go, but the activity is very limited to weekends and weekdays after 4 o'clock. So it's a very quiet sport, very respectful. What does badminton need? Well, it needs a facility of at least 1,500 square meters, and essentially a block of land of that size or greater, and a ceiling that's 10 to 12 meters high. So that's our biggest hurdle, is finding a premises to build a court or to hire one or to lease one. So that's basically my pitch to you tonight, is to say, please don't forget about the sport. It's got a place in our society, particularly in this part of town. And I'm happy to take any further questions if you have any.
Thank you. Councillor Davey?
Thank you, Andrew, for coming along tonight.
Sure.
It's a very interesting sport. My father was a British naval officer and he taught us to play badminton when we were young, but we never had courts or anything. We just used to string up a net and play. So I'm fascinated to hear how organised you are and that it's grown so big and so complex. I'm not clear exactly what you need in terms of, in say a park, what sort of facility could be used already, or do you want us to adapt some sort of a gymnasium or building to? Is it an indoor sport or an outdoor sport? That's what I'm not
completely
clear about.
indoors, and I guess my idea tonight is just to put it out there to say if there's any facility available, or if not, in the future, if you're planning to build anything, to keep us in mind that South Australia doesn't actually have a proper hub for badminton, and it'd be a great place to centre our junior program and state program somewhere else, in a dedicated facility somewhere.
Councillor Zing?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for coming along tonight as well.
Sure.
I just had a quick Google just to look at some financials in terms of a hub, if one was to be proposed. Would you agree it would be in the vicinity of 20 to 50K?
Oh, no, not at all. In fact, I've done the sums. We've looked at land outside Adelaide, and to build something would be 3 to 4 million, just to build the actual facility without land. So we think it's not entirely out of the question, because it's not an expensive box to build. It's not like a full-purpose gym like the Light Centre or the Arc. It's nothing like that at all, but it's really a black box with courts inside.
Can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
I'm very familiar with the one at Lockleys, have played there many times myself, and it needs to be a black box to stop the light from affecting the sight of the shuttle. I understood that they used to play badminton quite regularly over at the University of South Australia gym within the Campbelltown area. Is that no longer being played there?
Is that the McGill one?
Yes, McGill campus.
Yeah, the McGill campus has a gym. It's got 6 courts, and it's really mainly for basketball and volleyball. So they still play there. A lot of little kids are training there now, like four nights a week, I think.
Yeah, because the surface is not ideal.
No, very slippery, so it's a bit dangerous as well.
But that's what most people end up having to use.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, next person is Councillor Jones.
Thanks for coming.
Yes.
So, 1,500 square metres plus a bit of extra. Let's say 2,000 square metres for land. That's
Yep.
3 million.
Yep.
4 million to build it. That's 7. How much co-funding can you bring from the Olympic Committee or the Commonwealth Games, state government, federal government? Because I can't see council's going to fork up 7 million.
Okay, so just rewind a sec. So if the land's not included, the bill is about 3.5, we think. In terms of contributions, the state government has completely not come to our help this year. We have no funding from the government at all, 0. And predominantly we're self-sufficient by hiring out courts, running programs. We even pay coaches from the kids' fees and stuff. So in terms of cash, the actual Badminton Association of South Australia it's quite solvent, but it's not sitting in the millions. In terms of if you provided a block of land for us and we wanted to build it, I can promise we have benefactors in the association who would come to the party, who would be prepared to sponsor or subsidise or even build the facility at their costs. But I don't know how the financial arrangement would work with council, but that's just something we have to talk about later if we go down that track.
Councillor Zing?
Thank you, Mayor. Just another question. Is there any location in Burnside or park that you've found to be reasonable or adequate?
Honestly, it's hard to say because we've got a lot of open space. I mean, Kensington Gardens would be amazing, but obviously I don't know if the neighbours would love us there, but like I said, it's a very quiet place. Yeah. Well, the thing is, you can incorporate it into so many things. If you wanted to build a gym next to it, it wouldn't take a lot of space, all those things. But I haven't specified a location as such.
Councillor Turnbull, did you? Okay. Councillor Davey?
Thank you. I'm still a bit confused about whether it has to be indoors, does it?
Yes.
So you couldn't adapt our tennis courts for using...
They could build on it.
Oh, so you couldn't share a tennis court and
No, you can't.
use...
No.
Okay.
It must be indoor facility, and it played at any kind of level. Even at school sport, it's all indoor. A lot of our high schools. I mean, have you pursued? Can I just ask? Have you pursued Glenunga High with their gymnasium, or of course at Norwood International?
Yeah, so Glenunga's got 2 gyms. The old one is where badminton's played 6 days a week.
Yes.
The new gym they wouldn't allow us in to use at all. So it's a bit sad.
All right, Councillor Jones.
I'm going to ask you whether you'd thought about the old rifle range in Chambers Gully Reserve. Is a big patch of flat land where there's an old building to be demolished you might want to chat to council about.
Happy to pursue that. Rifle range, didn't know we had one.
It's not accessible at the moment.
No.
It doesn't have a bridge. All right. Since there's no further questions, thank you very much, Mr. Wong, for coming in, and your friend for coming along and promoting the sport.
No, thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Okay.
And now we have Mr. Daniel Kazaniki. Is that correct? All right. Would you like to come forward, Mr. Kazaniki? And again, your name and suburb. Thank you.
So Daniel Kazaniki, and I live in Linden Park. I've lived in Linden Park for nearly 10 years, and a proud parent of 2 children who go to the local school. So one is still at Linden Park Primary School, and one has just started Year 7 at Glenunga. I have written a letter to Mr. Kusintonis back on the 12th of April this year about my serious concerns about the pedestrian crossing currently located between Hay and Queen Street on Portrush Road. I'd like everyone to cast their minds back to the 22nd of March this year, and you may recall there was a rather disturbing accident that happened in front of Marrickville High School. And I'm not sure what has eventuated from that, but I can only assume that's not good. I thought about the welfare of the children who witnessed that particular accident, and also obviously the 2 children who were hit by a small truck. I was on my way to work and I saw that, and I thought straight away about my children, as anyone or any parent would do. My eldest child uses a crossing which is directly on Portrush Road in front of the Audi store there. You may be aware of that crossing. And I thought, I'm going to go for a drive down there and have a look how this crossing's set up. And obviously I noted it's got stoplights. That's a positive. Didn't help with regards to what happened at Marrickville, but anyway. There's a red light camera, which is a good thing. And on the western side of that crossing, there is a high-level light, or indication stop sign, or stoplights, I should say. On the eastern side, it can't be provided because of overhead power lines. I also had a look at what sort of barriers were in place. And from, I'm a mechanical engineer. By no means am I a traffic engineer or a structural engineer. But those barriers that are there, to me, look like pool fencing. And pool fencing is generally made out of aluminium or lightweight steel. I then looked at peak times being sort of between 8 and 9 and 2:30 and 3:30. And at any one time, I could probably count 20 to 30 students, plus parents, grandparents, waiting at that intersection. And I thought to myself, what would happen if these huge B-double trucks coming down Portrush Road from the freeway or going up to the freeway were to either lose their brakes coming down because it's still on a slope coming down from the freeway,
or going up, for whatever reason, missing those lights, and my child was crossing that crossing with 20 others. And what impact that would have, and I'd hate to think what that impact would be. Be tragic, in my opinion. So I thought, I'm going to write a letter, and the Mayor was the first to respond. Thank you very much. And only today I've got a response from a local MP, and Mr. Koutsantonis responded and suggested that I need to talk to or redirect my letter to a different MP who was responsible for police and something or other, can't remember what it was. So my concerns are that the government currently don't have a risk assessment, a current risk assessment for these pedestrian crossings on Port Rush Road. I'm only just concentrating on the Linda Park Glenunga one, but there's one up by Loreto, exactly the same configuration, and also one at Seymour, exactly the same configuration. And I want the government to undertake an audit of these pedestrian crossings, undertake a risk assessment, think about if a B-double truck or many other trucks coming down there were to miss those lights and what that impact would be. I was suggesting also in my letter that the barriers that are there are totally unsafe, whilst they encourage children and parents to cross where they need to cross. There's no physical protection whatsoever, and they're not rated for trucks, buses, cars. And also cast your mind back to some media reports on South Road. That same fencing was hit by an elderly gentleman in a car, and it was a projectile that launched many metres like a spear and actually went through the car window and nearly took him out, and also parts went flying everywhere. So in summary, I'm asking the government and the council to look into this, because I think it's a real issue, and I won't be able to live with myself, to be honest, if not bringing it up and something was to happen like that at Marrickville. So I encourage everyone to get on board and do what we can to have this looked at.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jennings.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for coming in. Having 3 children myself who attended Linden Park Primary School, that crossing is petrifying. I, for starters, didn't understand why the red light...
Mr Jennings, just a question,
Sorry.
because we get to debate later.
No, that's it. I think this is it. I think this needs to be brought up.
I'm glad it's resonated with you.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Just a moment. Councillor Jennings, can you just turn your microphone off, please?
Thank you, Daniel, for coming along tonight and raising your concerns. Are you aware, and this isn't to make an excuse, but there is a hierarchy of roads and responsibility for roads?
Correct.
And all of that sort of thing. And I thank you for pursuing this, because it's a delicate balance for us in terms of looking at the safety issues and maintaining those, looking at the feeder roads and all of the implications of that, trying to support cyclists as well in amongst all of this mix, and then dealing with roadways like Port Rush Road with the volumes of traffic that come down, especially across the crossings that you're mentioning. So it's a long process to have get the state government to take action, and but I welcome your intervention, and I think you've done the right thing. The other thing I would ask is, have you spoken to your local member, State Member of Parliament, Jack Batty?
Yes, I got a response today, and he said good luck with my endeavours. So that to me was totally unsatisfactory, and I'll be responding back to him on that, because that was to me a handball with no responsibility.
Councillor Turnbull.
Actually, thank you for coming in, but that was my question too, so I'm being preempted today. I had a coffee with the local member the other day, and this is his big baby. This is his big issue, is this Port Rush
Question,
Road.
please.
Oh, sorry, and the question is, have you contacted him? And I hear that you have, but have you actually made an appointment with his office and had a chat?
No, But I would be,
Or a letter, I think would be really good.
a letter is all it's gone to at this stage,
Yeah.
but yes, I agree.
I think
we
you'll
should
follow it
catch
up
up and
pretty
perhaps
assiduously.
even and meet at that intersection or that pedestrian
Yeah.
crossing.
Good, thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor Hallett?
Thank you. I was going to ask if you put your mind to considering any possible solutions.
A couple of solutions that I came up with were orange warning lights flashing between certain hours, of which would indicate that there are children crossing, as you do with any particular crossing. They don't have to operate 24/7. The other thing that I considered was proper commercial heavy-duty transport-grade barriers, should anything happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Mr.
Kazaniki.
Kazaniki, I got it right.
Thank you all.
So, thank you very much for coming in, and you're going to listen from home to the debate later on this evening. And obviously, other people can have make a lot more comments, but this time is just designed to asking questions.
No problems. Thanks
Since
for your
you're
time.
both doing your first ever deputations, thank you both for coming in.
Do we have to turn this off?
Right, first of all, before I go through the reports, I just want to confirm that item 13.3 has been withdrawn from the agenda this evening, for those who may or may not have been aware. So I will go through the reports, starting from 11.1, and seek a withdrawal, someone who wishes to withdraw it for debate. First with 11.1, Councillor Turnbull. 11.2, Councillor Davey. I'm just going to keep on rolling unless somebody speaks and lets me know that they want to move it straight away. I'm going to assume that you are just asking for withdrawal. 11.3, adoption of behaviour support policy. Councillor Davey. Review code of practice. Councillor Davey. Horticultural landscape. Councillor Davey. Your Water Audit Committee appointment. That one I would like to think we could handle very quickly. Maybe now. If someone would like to move. Councillor Dawes. Seconded by Councillor Davey. Sorry, it was Councillor Zing who seconded. And those in favour? Against? Carried. The ESCOSA report should be something that's quite similar to, because we're only receiving a report. So 11.7, like a mover. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Zing. Seconded by, I'm waiting for someone on the screen, Councillor Davey. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Finance end of the month. Councillor Davey. Mayor's activity report. Again, someone might like to move that one. Thank you. No, Councillor Zing has moved and Councillor Dawes second. Those in favour? Yes. Against? Carried. Chief Executive Officer's report. Councillor Davey. Right, so we go back to the first one, and that's Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. For this one, I'm happy to accept the draft budgets for Brown Hill Creek, Keswick, the East Waste, EHA, and the Highbury landfill. However, I believe that there are issues and questions regarding the draft budget of Era Water, and that this requires further consideration by Council. Therefore, I move that 1. The draft budgets for Brown Hill Creek, Keswick, East Waste, EHA, Highbury landfill be accepted as presented. 2. That the draft budget for Era Water be further discussed and considered by Council. Now, in speaking to this,
we do need a formal motion on this, so just got to wait till we get something on the screen. Sorry, Councillor Turnbull, we just need to get this right
okay,
first.
Thank you very much, sir.
I don't want to interrupt you partway through. Sorry, councillor Turnbull, but
That's
I
okay.
don't want the
No, no,
distraction
that's
once you
fine.
get started. Neither of those councillors are here tonight. Is that working now? No. My only other suggestion would be for them to swap positions. Apparently we can continue now, so councillor Turnbull.
Do you want to do me a favour? And also don't approve the Brownhill Keswick Creek until we've had further discussion.
Is it too late?
Don't know.
Okay, sorry. Now, so I've said that bit. Now, I'll just go back to what I said. I believe that there are issues and questions regarding the draft budget of Era Water, and that this requires further consideration by council. Now, there are no issues with the other four subsidies, though I just told by my co-councillor friend that there are, but maybe he can bring that one up too. But my issue's with Era Water. So when I started in council 5 years ago, Era Water was needing substantial extra finances to survive. Each time, it's always between 800,000 and 1 million. That's a big drain, pardon the pun, on council. I remember last year, some councillors saying, this is the last time we'll do this. They would vote for the extra handout. And here we are again and again. So Era Water continues to underperform and is a detriment to the Council of Burnside finances. So 2022-23 was a good rainfall year. So why the deficit? Page 74 has a table. Income from water sales. Question, to whom are these water sales? That's a rhetoric question. We did hear it was Pembroke, but I don't know of any others in that time. It also states there's an assumption of 2 new schools connecting. Assumption. We've heard this in the past about customers and potential buyers. They're all assumptions. Attachment A, financial statement, is a depressing read. Same old, year after year. $16 million debt, no inroads on the debt. In fact, we're just about up to where we were 5 years ago. And I would like to ask, and this is a proper question, how much interest are we paying each year? May I ask that question in the middle of my speech?
Can I suggest that you continue on and finish your speech and then we'll ask the question at the end?
So okay. $16 million debt, no inroads on the debt. How much interest are we paying? We'll find out later. I once reported that this project was a hole in the bucket. It still is, but the hole's got bigger and bigger. In moving this recommendation, I wish to exclude Era Water as I think it needs further serious discussion, and it's about time we did. Thank you.
Now would you like to ask your question before I go to Councillor Davey?
Through Madam Mayor, I haven't got the exact figure to hand, but I'm just recalling the figures that were presented to us at the presentation the other evening by the Chair of Era Water. And I think the commentary was that about 68% of Era Water's expenditure goes towards debt servicing and depreciation. And I have a figure of 32%, I think, that's going towards debt servicing. I haven't got the finite number for you, but what that shows is, if we take the 68% figure, that the debt is a heavy burden for Era Water to manage and service. Sorry, Madam Mayor, I'll reserve the right to
Councillor Davey, are you seconding?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, thank you, Councillor Turnbull, for raising this issue. Yes, I endorse the other subsidiaries' annual budgets, but I too have concerns about Era Water in terms of the extent of the equity that they're asking us to move to, and plus I don't feel we're being kept in the loop with all of the changes that are being made in terms of our parks and gardens, the infrastructure that's being installed. We've got pipelines being installed without anyone knowing anything about it. They just suddenly, you find these huge areas of parks dug up to install the pipelines and pipe works. We've got a need for more, and that applies also to flow meters and everything. They just appear, these huge ugly structures. There's also other areas where we're told we need more infrastructure, but we haven't been involved in the process and informed about it. So I've got huge concerns in terms of this increase in capital expenditure, plus the way we're managing the process and installing the infrastructure. It seems to go on forever and without any end in sight. So that's my concern. I'd rather we have a workshop that actually addresses all of this, goes into all the questions we have about the interest rates we're paying, all of the operational issues, and then what our future customer base is likely to be with customers for these extensions. So they're my concerns.
Would CEO like to respond to that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of points of clarification. With regards to the installation of pipes and infrastructure, my understanding is since the initial installation of the initial infrastructure, there hasn't been any new pipes installed. So I'm not sure what you mean by just popping up. And in terms of the workshop, well, we had a workshop the other evening, which dealt with, I thought it dealt with most of the queries that existed. So I'm not sure what a further workshop will achieve.
Councillor Hallett?
I've got a question in regard to Era Water, or the Brownhill Creek, sorry. I don't understand why our capital contribution is 12% and Mitchell's is only 10. Mitchell seems like it should be a lot larger water course than because when I looked at it, all I could see that we're spending is the Glenside Basin. And so why is our contribution 12% and Mitchell's is only 10?
Do you want to answer that one? Because I mean, I can, but you can.
Madam Mayor, seeing as the allocation percentages were before my time, you may have more insight than I do.
When Brownhill Creek when Brownhill Creek scheme was set up, it was as a result of the flooding, 1 in 200 year potential flood that could actually flood the entire Adelaide Airport. Most of the potential damage would be done in the West Torrens area, hence they have the biggest proportion. I can't remember exactly the percentage, but thank you, 50, close enough, 50 something percent. So that's why they carry the greatest burden, because it is the largest area of land. Mitcham had the flood beginnings, because where the flood originates is actually in the Mitcham Hills behind. And there was a lot of controversy at the time because they were talking about putting in a dam. The community did not want a dam in behind the caravan park. So that was, quite a big obstacle, a lot of debate about that. And then the Brownhill Creek Authority was formed, and they looked at the proportions of responsibility. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cooper. They looked at the proportions that would be required for each of those councils that are part of the scheme, the 5 councils. So Mitcham has the smallest because it actually is the amount of land that it occupies. We're next. Then Adelaide City Council is the biggest, and that's the new wetland development that's been finished that they're still working on and still providing tree planting, etc. for that. And then the next one is Unley, and then Unley and Adelaide City, and then of course the biggest area is West Torrens. So it was actually the scheme was created by those 5 councils. We have over time applied to state government to try and get money to try and finish the scheme earlier. We have tried federal government to get money to try to finish the scheme earlier, because we know that at the moment it's a 20-year project, but if we could finish it within a few years, the costs to all councils would be much lower. Unfortunately, we have not been successful with any of that kind of grant funding being forthcoming. So this is a historic proportion. And if Mr. Cooper wanted to enlighten any further on anything to expand, have I covered it pretty much, Mr. Cooper? Okay, because I know there are a few of us around here, around the table, who were there at the beginning when it all started. So it is an organisation that, it is a subsidiary that is run by a board with representatives from each of the councils on that board. Okay. So, am I incorrect with that, Mr. Cooper? That's correct. Thank you.
I've got a couple more things. Still, to me, if you look at what's happening in the Adelaide Park lands and you go, well, wow, and we've got basically some pipes underneath the road, yet we're paying more. Like they're only paying 8%.
It's a proportion that was set up when the subsidiary was established, and it's not. We can't go back on that agreement that has already created the subsidiary.
Okay, my comment would be we need to be more careful about getting into these, because I've also got problems with ERA in that when we had that presentation earlier this week, was it? Last week? It's never going to break even.
Question? Or otherwise you're speaking?
So to me, it's always going to be impacting our ability.
Question, we need a question, otherwise you're debating.
Is it impacting our ability to fund new initiatives?
I think that's something that everyone around the table has to make that decision. But obviously, any funds that we have to outlay through to finance or to fund our subsidiaries has an impact.
Through Madam Mayor, I was just going to make a broad comment in response that obviously the council's made certain decisions that they felt were right at the time, many years in the past. The short answer is yes, it does in fact impact on us today because we're funding those decisions. The one thing I'd just ask council to have a think about with these two draft budgets potentially being pulled out is, are you prepared potentially to leave them in the draft to allow me time to work with these subsidiaries to provide suitable responses to your many queries? Bearing in mind that the want to pull them from this agenda wasn't shared with me until now. Because if it was shared, I would have had an opportunity to talk to, and I must give Councillor Jones credit.
Yes,
he's asked me multiple questions. But what wasn't intimated was pulling them from this motion. If I'd been given full warning, I may have been able to help understanding clarity to provide the science that was required to inform Council's decision process. My request of you this evening, if you're willing, is to leave it in the draft and task me with alleviating your concerns or giving the answers that you require to allow you to make an informed decision once we consider the document post-consultation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I believe there are two things, before I go to you, Councillor Wilkins, I believe there are two things that we need to consider. One is the clarification if you wish to exclude, and that would require an amendment to the motion, I believe an amendment to the motion, to remove Brownhill Creek if that is the will of the meeting, because at the moment that is still there. All right, that's number one that would need to be resolved, and number two is to consider the information that the CEO has just provided. While you're thinking about that, I will go to Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to illustrate the importance of this allocation of funds and the percentage, does staff have the map of the flood areas of the City of Adelaide? That would illustrate the importance of the allocation of funds and percentages that are on page 12.
I think to Councillor Wilkins, you would remember when Fullerton Road flooded before this scheme was actually constructed, and the devastation potentially that occurred at that time, and could be much worse in the case of that retention basin not having been constructed as it has at Glenside. All right, Councillor Jones.
I would like to move an amendment then. Shall I tell you what I want to do? I want to leave them in the draft budget as the CEO's requested, but to pull out for further discussion Era Water and Brownhill Keswick Creek. So if that's
okay.
If the staff can magically turn that into a...
No, first of all, I need to get permission from Councillor Turnbull to allow that amendment to take place. Right, and the second...
That would be a variation if Councillor Turnbull was...
And the seconder...
It's an amendment. It's an amendment.
And the seconder? No. You want it... Okay, so it needs to be an amendment, and I need a seconder for the amendment then.
Shall I speak first?
No, I need a seconder first. I'd like to have a seconder.
Well,
oh, no, okay, you speak first. Sorry, you speak first.
Because people won't know whether they support me. So, okay.
I'm wrong.
I will speak... I've only got 3 minutes. So, Era Water, I definitely agree. I don't think people fully understand the potential implications. We have got two unpalatable choices. Our $5 million share of the debt is gone. The scheme will never generate enough money to pay that back. So either unpalatable choice 1, we write off the debt and close the scheme down, or unpalatable choice 2, we say goodbye to our 5 million and have to put another million in. So I think it probably does bear a fuller discussion because I'm not sure everybody appreciates that. Brownhill Keswick Creek is the horror story that is flying behind the below the radar. This scheme, we went into it on the basis that it was funded a third by the councils, a third by the state government and a third by the federal government. The board hasn't got any money from the federal government and now they're coming after councils for the difference. Well, that's not what we signed up to go into this scheme. So I think we need to push back on that. They want $500,000 from us a year. Well, they've got $10 million in the bank. They've got $5 million of discretionary capital expenditure, which if they haven't got the money, they should cancel immediately. And they were promised $5 million by a successful federal candidate in Boothby, Louise Miller-Frost. And the first thing they should do is go to her and tell her to cough up the $5 million she promised and tell her what happens to politicians who don't meet their election promises. So that would raise $20 million straight off. They want to spend $5 million capex a year. We don't have to put any money in for 4 years. And by that time, the board should do what they're appointed to do, is get the money from the federal government. And if they don't, we'll sack them and put a new board in. So I do hope you support my amendment.
Councillor Wilkins, you wish to second?
I do.
All right. And you're going to reserve... Wait a minute, you've already spoken, haven't you?
I'm going to reserve my right if I
Wait a
have
minute.
him.
I have to check, did you
I'm happy
speak
to
already?
second the amendment.
No, but I'm not just checking. Did you speak already? Or did you only ask a question?
I asked a question
That's fine.
about the floodplain map.
That's okay, that's fine. Clarification. I'm just making it clear. All right. I think there's some debate happening here. I just need to wait to find it.
A question. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to clarify...
Mr. You might be able to answer, possibly able to answer this, I don't know.
It's the intent of Councillor Jones' motion. So that includes the first part and is just an amendment to include Brownhill Creek, essentially.
Does not agree.
So we're actually considering...
hopefully we've got some clarification from here.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I was just seeking clarification on the wording to achieve the goal that I think we're all trying to achieve. What we could do is make it clear that we're not approving the Era Water budget and we're not, as if it gets up, that we're not approving the Brownhill Keswick Creek budgets. I would still include the allocations in the draft budget, but that doesn't mean councils have approved them because we're still in draft stage for our whole entire budget, but it makes it very clear to the reader that you're not approving it, but in essence you're telling me, Mr. CEO, we want to do some more work on that. So I'm comfortable with that approach if that has the support of the meeting.
I think there's a couple of issues here. One is that there are three items on there that are being recommended for approval. So we need to separate the motion into two parts. The first part is those that you're approving immediately. That is items 2, 3 and 4. But then there are two other items. Sorry, well, according to that, it's 2, 3 and 4. East Waste, Eastern Health and Highbury landfill. So we're approving those three. I'm looking at it on the screen, but we're not approving the others. So that we just need to get the wording right, and perhaps we can collaboratively work out the best motion that would cover both of those needs.
Are you
I'll take advice, definitely.
Oh, no, no issue with how you're looking to approach it. But
Yeah.
the wording for the two in question
Yes.
is simply changing it from approve to does not approve.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got three. The first three will be, we approve East Waste, we approve Eastern Health, we approve Highbury Landfill, but does not approve Brown Hill Creek, and does not approve, number 5 becomes, does not approve Era Water. Now, councillor Turnbull, you people at home don't know what's happening. So we now have a new motion here that council approves East Waste, approves Eastern Health, approves Highbury Landfill, does not approve Brown Hill Creek, and we need to include in number 5, does not approve Era Water budget. Can we just get that one included? Sorry? Oh, sorry, number 4 has them both. Okay. You don't want to have them separated? It's okay like that? All right, okay. And we have a mover, a seconder, who've both agreed. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak or ask a question on this at this point in time? Councillor Dawes.
Yes, I think I must speak. And it was unfortunate that Councillor Turnbull and Councillor Davey couldn't attend that workshop because there were some very interesting facts. I'm not criticising you, Councillor Davey. You had a reason for not attending. Please do not think it's otherwise.
You just said it was unfortunate.
Yeah, it was just unfortunate, right? So the chairperson, Jeff Tate, did a very good job, I have to say, but these are some of the things that he said. That 2021 was the first full year of operation of Era Water, so I took note of that. But the optimal performance of Era Water is not going to occur until 5 to 10 years' time. I think it'll be more like 10 years' time. We are $15.3 million in debt, of which a third is us, $5.1 million. So that's what Councillor Jones mentioned before. The interest is 33% of the expenditure. You didn't quite get that right, CEO. And the depreciation is 30%. So 63% of the expenditure goes towards interest and depreciation. The other points that I like to make is that we wanted to know whether we could use gap water during this workshop, which I think that Councillor Turnbull and perhaps Councillor Dave would like to know about. And, I think there was a concern about the size of the pipe or something. I didn't quite understand what it really meant. But there was one important slide, which they said was the Councillor Dawes slide, which was very nice of them, that over 10 years, if we do have this equity arrangement of $800,000 and all that sort of thing, that we'll be profit neutral after 10 years, but not including depreciation. So if you don't include depreciation, then there's no funds for future investment, right? So it really means that the two councils following us will also have an issue. The other part of the equation is that when this was debated going back, I don't know when it was, Councillor David, probably 8, 12 years ago, whenever it was, there was an environmental component of this, about drought times and so forth and all that. And so we always must think about that. But there were 6 councils that were involved at the time. And 3 of those who weren't involved were some of the larger ones. And the one that kept in was Walkerville, which is the smallest one. So that's why Walkerville can only afford $200,000 equity per year. So I guess what I'm saying here is that I learnt a lot from the workshop. That's the point I was making. I think Councillor Hubel would probably also like to know a bit more. I don't think he was there either. I'm still not convinced. It's basically what I'm saying. I'm still not convinced that this is going to be a long-term proposition. I have a lot of respect for the chairperson. I think that's probably the best one we've had so far. And the new general manager as well. So it is hopeful, but I do think this whole council needs to understand it better.
Thank you, Councillor Dawes. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Right, then I will go back to Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. I went through my diary the other day for tax purposes, and there were a lot of ERA workshops in that diary. I don't remember any of them much, but I was there. But this one, I did ask for the slides, and they were given to me, and I've seen them all before. And I didn't get Mr. Councillor Dawes' slide there with that lot. Workshops are docile listening. We need a robust discussion about this one, and what we could do with that interest, just the interest alone for projects around the City of Burnside, beggars belief. So our ratepayers trust us to manage their money wisely, but this project is not being wisely spent. We were told in the first year of council it's going to be a 30-year project. Well, if they're going to keep asking for 800,000 to $1 million every year, we will be broke. It's just ridiculous. I think longly of all the projects we could do with that money, and I would really ask if you support this so we can have a robust discussion, not a workshop, not another workshop, where people come and speak to us with facts and figures and we go, yes, yes, and we don't understand it. A robust discussion that's led by somebody, not one of the many chairpersons we've had, not one of the many general managers we've had. Let's just make it a proper, robust discussion. So I'll leave it with you. I think it's a waste of money.
Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. Thank you for your patience and your conversation. Right, well now we will move to 11.2, which is Councillor Davey. Councillor Turnbull, could you just turn your mic off?
Sorry. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I haven't got the benefit of this in front of me, but I'm moving in line with, this is our draft annual business plan and budget and long-term financial plan, a very important document. I'm moving in accordance with the officer's recommendation from 1 to 6 of this document. Would you like me to read it for those at home? Or
no, I don't think you need to.
The one I wish to exclude is to exclude the George Bolton Swim Centre toddler playground shade structure, and I'll talk to that as I go through. I appreciate the work to date to develop the budget and all the assumptions on which it's based. A lot of work's gone into this and deliberation. However, the inclusion of number 7 is premature, I believe. There is more work to be done on this matter, which has only just recently been raised with us. It hasn't been raised until just in recent weeks. In fact, in our budget deliberations, for the need for a shade over a newly installed play equipment in the swimming centre. We all put up budget bids, all of the elected members and the staff, and every one of those bids was surrendered so that we could keep our rates down low at 5.8%. This has reappeared, and I don't believe there are legitimate reasons for this, and I'll explain why. I want to know why the materials in the playground are so hot. It's only 2 years ago that this was installed, and I'm really concerned that the equipment may not comply with Australian Standard 48611, which are the general safety requirements for playground equipment. This is a newly published Australian standard. It's 2 years old. This play equipment will not comply with this standard. Is it fit for purpose? I think this needs to be investigated before we launch into spending $40,000. It might well be legitimate, but I've got some grave concerns about that. I note further that SafeWork SA have recently issued a safety audit following a serious playground injury in a school locally. I think that was a fall from another sort of equipment. But on investigating that, I looked at the SafeWork site. They've actually audited playgrounds, and there's a report on their work site from 2022, which shows a whole lot of playground incidents. They're essentially falls, etc. What I'm saying is there are enough uncertainties for me to ask that we don't know how all of our playgrounds are going. I think we need to do an audit of our playgrounds across Burnside, and I think moving to actually install shade structure in Hazelwood Park, in the swimming centre, and while it is, you know, the rationale is given that it's a paying space, therefore we've got a greater risk. I think we've got a greater risk if we don't investigate the safety of our equipment. When we have had this issue raised, we've had other issues raised in our playgrounds, Kensington Gardens Reserve and another playground, of possible lack of safety and design issues. So I ask you to support this motion and that the budget go ahead, but without this $40,000. And I'll be moving down the track that we actually spend that much money on an audit of our playgrounds to make sure they're all safe. So hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
I need a seconder. Councillor Harvey,
Yes, I'll second.
are you going to speak now?
I'll reserve my right.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr CEO.
Madam Mayor, if I just make a quick commentary, just to put a little context on why I chose to put this figure back in, and it was purely because our insurers had raised it as a risk issue. Now, it's up to council what they do with that, but as your CEO, I have a duty to raise that with you. Certainly, I haven't got an issue with the amendment that Councillor Davey has proposed, in light of the fact that it will allow me to do some more homework on the matter, and if it turns out that it's not required, well and good. If it is required, then I'll come and prosecute my case again at the final consideration of the budget. Just one other clarification point, if I may. We do already do an audit annually of our playgrounds, so we wouldn't need a further amount of funding to do follow-up audits. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Hallett.
Thank you. Yeah, I was surprised that it popped back in because to me it's not being weighed up when it was the appropriate time to weigh it up. We did consider it when we were workshopping budget bits, and it didn't get up. That's my recollection. And then it pops back in. But to me, it's, you know, like having raised 2 children and having 4 grandchildren who use the swimming centre. I mean, yes, on a hot day, you just automatically check before children use equipment that they're not going to burn themselves. And I can't see that we couldn't put a bit of bunting around a slippery dip if the temperature is too hot, or that we just chuck a couple of buckets of water over it. I think that, you know, we haven't explored, well, what other solutions might there be than spending $38,000 when 40 of our bids were shut down. And I just think, well, I don't think we've really looked at this as there are other potential solutions.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you, Worship.
Councillor Hallett, can you turn your mic off, please?
Yeah, that would help. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm on page 132, which is in the descriptions for this draft budget. I just want to add the word Eastwood in the City Master Plan Action Plan delivery. I note point 1 talks about 40k areas and the implementation thus, and Eastwood is part of that. But we're not mentioned in point 2 when Eastwood does have a traffic management issue. I want it to read, prepare and consult on traffic management plans for Frueville, Glenunga, Eastwood, Dulwich, Rose Park and Toorak Gardens. Thank you, Mr CEO. I would appreciate if that word was included in this draft. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, happy to take on board any changes of that kind of nature to
I
ensure that we present this document as accurately as possible. So I don't think we need to change the recommendation, but I'm happy to commit to put that wording in for you.
Councillor Zinn.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question as well. I'm on page 95, paragraph 25. I was just wondering which pedestrian crossing was receiving the 114k upgrade?
Through you, Madam Mayor, can I just refer that to Mr. Harvey?
That is, Councillor Jones, who shouldn't really have been giving you the answer, is actually correct. That is the proposed joint venture that we're paying for with Nord Payneham St Peters Council, because one side of McGill Road belongs to Nord Payneham St Peters, the other side is Burnside's, the Beulah Park side is ours, and hence we are contributing with the government to put in a pedestrian crossing in that location, just down from, just towards the city from the McDonald's on McGill Road. So that's where that money is allocated. Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question about asset renewal, and this is on page 135. I think it's relating to open space asset management plan, and I'm not sure in this. I did ask some questions, but I still haven't got an answer as to where our expenditure for tree planting will be for the next financial year, and I just haven't been able to find it in our budgeting. So if someone could please tell me, there's apparently $430,000 on open space renewal. I don't know if that is where trees come in.
I think they have an answer for you.
Through Madam Mayor, happy to clarify. I'll just refer that to Mr. Harvey.
Through the Mayor, the open space renewal is capital. Tree planting is operational. So the tree planting sits in the operational budgets.
So could I ask where that is? Thanks.
Ms Reynolds, do you want to answer that one?
Through the Mayor, sure. The annual business plan document does not list out every operational budget that we've got. As requested, we will put the budgets within the directorates. So it will be within the operations team. So on page 136, where we've got each of the directorates and departments, we will put their operational expenditure in total, but we do not split out each and every recurrent budget into the different elements. For example, if you have a look at the operations section on page 136, you'll see a number of services listed, like emergency management response, fleet management. So we don't split it out, we'll just provide an overall expenditure amount.
Mr Cowley?
Through Madam Mayor, would it help Councillor Davey if we added a specific dot point there, specifically around our tree planting activity? I'm certainly happy to add that in. Yep.
And it will help the community, because I know.
Yep. No, certainly. Certainly happy to add that clearly as a dot point under the functions and services covered under there for you.
Okay, that's been noted. Now, Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I will support the playground shade, but when there's a risk issue with kids, I have to go on the side of the risk assessors. But the point I want to make here, two things. The long-term financial plan. I just want councillors to note that at the moment, year 2, which is not this year, the following year, the rates are provisionally listed at 5.5%, then 4%, then 3.5%. I've always believed that the lowest we can do it, the best we are, but it's still, under this long-term financial plan, we're saying for 24-25 that the most likely rate rise will be 5.5%, unless we do, again, a bit of cost cutting. 5.8. Yeah. No, 5.8 this year, but next year, 5.5. So we've got a 5.8% rate increase, which could have been a lot higher, and I'm not pleased, I'm just saying I'm glad it's less. The thing I want to note, and I say it every year, it's my 5th year in saying it, is the increase in valuations. Now, the average for all of Burnside Council is 12.4%. However, and this is the big however, some of your suburbs are more than 12.4%. So their rate rise will be more than 5.8%. So I just had a look there, and I'm glad that Councillor Henske and Councillor Cornish are away, because the highest are Rose Park and Toorak Gardens and the little suburb of Leewood Gardens, which is over Hubel and Jones's area. So, but even though the maximum is 12 point, up 19, was it? Up 6, yeah, a lot anyhow. But the maximum is 12.5%. We can't go higher than 12.5. So don't think by setting 5.8, everybody in council is on 5.8. Now the only advantage is if your valuation went less than 12.4%, you'll be paying less than 5.8%. So I'm pleased that the suburb of Arundel was less than 12.4% because it wasn't last time. That's where I live, by the way. So just please note that when we're going to approve these various annual business plans and long-term financial plans. Thank you.
Just for information, Leewood Gardens, for those people who don't know, is on the old freeway, above the Devil's Elbow, and most of those properties are farm properties. They're quite large pieces of land, and under the hills, come under the control of the Hills Face Zone. So many of them are more than 10 acres. Oh, sorry, I'm using acres, not hectares, but yeah, they're quite large properties. So that does make a big difference. Okay, now Councillor Hallett.
A question in regard to the provisions for replacing a plant and at the depot, and also in regard to CTV security. I mean, one thing that I don't think we did discuss was whether there was a potential to postpone these replacements for 12 months in order to provide some new services. So the question is, have we considered, if we didn't replace the plant, whether that would allow us to have a bit more freedom in setting the rates?
Through Madam Mayor, with regards to those two items, they're both funded by capital. They're capital expenditure. So in terms of our rate setting, if council decided not to do those, which I wouldn't recommend, but if you chose not to do them, it would not have a material impact on your rates at all, being capital expenditure, not operating.
I have no one left on the screen. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I support the motion. I just want to sound like a broken record and draw people's attention to the debt levels in the long-term financial plan. I will vote for the motion, but the debt levels are going up to, I think, $38 million, $39 million, and that's based on some pretty heroic assumptions about this council being able to contain its spending on new capital items. That 39 million is based over the next 10 years on only doing the Regal Theatre and putting 2 million in towards Burnside Rugby Club, Kensington Cricket Club. And apart from that, doing nothing major for the remaining 8 years. Well, I have to tell you, things I'm aware of, Glenunga Rams want us to spend $3.5 million replacing the grass, and they want a new building. We know that the Kensington Lawn Tennis and Bowls Club want a new building, $4 million. We just heard the badminton people want a new building and some land, $7 million. Who else is going to decide they need a new clubhouse? You know, we've got all these things where women's sport is more important. Lots of these facilities have only got men's changing rooms, so we need to upgrade those. I think we need to think seriously over the next year how we are going to fund these things. Because all these things, as we can see, they're all lovely to have, but 10 years ago this council had no debt, and in 5 years' time we're going to have $40 million debt. And the council staff say, oh, you can't do it, you can't do it. But the fact is Campbelltown have done it. Campbelltown have got $36 million in the bank because they've been up front with their ratepayers and saying, guys, if you want shiny new things, you have to pay for them. And we can't just keep borrowing and say, oh, well, we don't care because we won't be on council in 20 years' time. And it'll be someone else's problem. I just think we need to embrace responsibility. So I'll support the budget, but keep that in the back of your mind and maybe we can think about it over the next year. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Jennings?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In regards to the town meeting and budgeting, how well is this meeting? How well is it attended by residents?
Not many.
In terms of the face-to-face meetings, it's a bit hard to tell because during the COVID period we weren't able to have them. But in terms of the City of Burnside's community engagement, to my mind, it's outstanding. We've had between 700 and 1,000 responses annually to our budget consultation process. Now, to put that in context, if I look at my last, say, 5 councils I worked for, the most submissions I would have received to any one budget would have been about 20. And that wasn't for want of trying.
We have articulate residents.
It just means our residents are engaged.
Exactly.
And take a real interest. So I've got to say the City of Burnside community have blown me away in terms of their engagement. Yeah. It's unheard of in the industry.
I'll reinforce that when I have talked to other councils about the communication or the feedback we get on our budget. It is astronomical. Most people are in 2 figures, 2 digits, maybe 3 if they're lucky, but certainly nowhere near the numbers that we've had over the last, particularly the last 4 years, have been absolutely outstanding. Public meetings, COVID excluded, have never attracted large numbers. No. And Councillor Wilkins will verify that, and so will, of course, Councillor Davey, who've been on councils in the past for a long time ago as well. So it tended always to be the same few people who always came, and the last one we had in here was last year that probably only had there were more councillors, I think, than people. But the issue was that was not the important part of the feedback. The feedback came through the social media, or responses to the social media that went out. Okay. And of course the documentation of the draft budget as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Any other, Councillor?
Thank you, Mayor. I will support this motion. As Councillor Davey mentioned, we were all asked to forgo our own budget bids in order to keep the rate increase at 5.8%, which we all voted on. This item 7 was not included in what we voted on. I have actually been to Penfold Park on a very hot day that has huge coverage of shade, and I noted that even a toddler could not go down the slippery dip because it was too hot, and that is under shade. So I think, as Councillor Davey also said, there needs to be some type of investigation into our playgrounds and heating up of equipment. So I will support this, thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Otherwise, I'd like to go back to Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions. And thank you for your support to my amendment. I think we've got time now. It's the end of the season. The swimming pool will be closing soon, and I'm happy that the CEO will review the situation. I'm very pleased that we do undertake annual audits of our playgrounds, and I'll be looking for the results of those and seek a briefing on this because I haven't seen that information before. Thank you also for the clarifications which will be provided in the final draft budget to go out for public consultation. As we've heard, this is long awaited by our community. They trawl through our budget and look for all the items of interest to them, starting with, of course, what their rates will be. But the one big issue, which I'm pleased we're including, is the dot point for the investment we're making in our trees, because my constituents certainly always ask about that. And I thank Councillor Jones for his very pertinent advice about how we should, as we go down in future budgets, consider and balance the expectations from our community and how we pay for them. We've got a big job ahead of us. So hopefully you'll support this for public consultation. Thank you.
Those in favour? Those against? Right, the motion is carried. And we move to item 11.3. Councillor Davey, page 171.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't spend too much time on this. I thank the CEO and his staff for this recommendation. I support this proposal that we bring back for our consideration a behavioural support policy for public consultation prior to it being adopted. I think this would form part of a behavioural management framework for all 13 of us elected members of this council. I think we need a process to be adopted for any alleged breaches of behaviour, including what constitutes misbehaviour and including what constitutes a frivolous or vexatious complaint. I think there's a lot of grey area in all of our codes and the information that we've had. We need a consistent approach to the acceptance of complaints and whether the identity of complainants will or should be protected, and then a process for the investigation, assessment and resolution of any complaints. I think we need to avoid any unnecessary legalistic approach. I really hope that we can keep lawyers out of it. I think we need to distinguish, and hopefully this will give us some direction about how we distinguish between a dispute and a complaint. And hopefully we'll be given a draft to consider, along with some skilled, objective training on the subject, which unfortunately we haven't had to date. So I note that Mitcham Council has got what seems to be a very good behaviour management policy, or code of conduct, which they published just before Christmas. So their council was I think, first off the block in terms of the new councils. And I read that and thought that might be a good start for us. So hopefully you'll support this, and I'll get someone to second it. Thank you.
Councillor Dawes?
Yes, I wish to second. I don't want to add much more to what Councillor Davies said. I just want to remind, it only came out today, that on the 16th and 18th of May, we have 2 mandatory sessions just on this. And I'm not going to criticise anybody, but there have been of recent times where we've had not mandatory sessions, but information sessions, which we can't all attend, and for various reasons. But these 2 we must attend. So I do ask all of us to make the effort to attend the first one, which is in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.
Councillor Jones?
Colleagues, I don't support this. Calling this a behavioural support policy is positively Orwellian. This isn't behavioural support. This is yet more behavioural rules on top of the vast amount of behavioural rules we already have in the Local Government Act. Why would we want to subject ourselves to even more regulation? This isn't going to do what Councillor Davey wants. All that stuff is covered in the Act. We're not going to be able to say, nah, we don't like this and we're going to do it our way. We're stuck with the Act. All this is going to do is going to say, on top of all the rubbish in the Local Government Act, let's add some more Burnside-specific rubbish. Really, let's not make a rod for our own back. And let's say no to this motion and say no, and sadly we may have to consider it in 4 years' time, those of us who can bear it any longer. Please vote against this motion.
Councillor Turnbull.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I couldn't agree more. Well said. And number 4, there's no obligation that the council must have a behavioural support policy. We don't need one. All I could think of is, do we need another one? It's all set out in the Local Government Act. So I agree with Councillor Jones and we'll vote against it.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? If not, then I'm going back to Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I disagree. Having just been through the process, I think we need more guidance. I think we need to stop vexatious complaints being made. We need to actually...
Excuse me, Councillor Davey, but that was what you went through was under the old Act.
That's right.
It's not the same as the Act that is now currently presented to us.
And but I still think we need some sort of a framework to support appropriate behaviour on council and the training that goes with this. And Councillor Dawes has rightly pointed out that we have already scheduled some specific training over two consecutive nights, I think, which it is critical that we attend. And I think this will form a backup. I certainly, in looking at other councils, was heartened by the Mitcham Council document which was developed for this council, and it talks about not referring problem areas to lawyers but referring them to the government panel, which means we save money. I'm just looking at both the angst for someone who's accused with a code of conduct complaint and has to endure that, but also the costs associated with it. They're astronomical. And I just think we need to manage it better. We can manage it better. And if a policy, if we can adopt one that Mitcham's done and other councils, and with local government association input, I think we'll be better off. So I hope you'll support this.
Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. Decision's been called. Those who supported the motion, please stand. So those in favour, Councillor Wilkins, Davey and Zing. Councillors Harvey, Hallett and Dawes. Those against, Councillors Hubel, Jones, Jennings. Sorry, you need to remain standing, otherwise I will not get the right names. And Councillor Turnbull. Right, now you may sit down. I think we've got them all recorded. Thank you. Now we move to the next one, which is also Councillor Davey. 11.4, page 180.
Thank you, Mayor. My motion with a slight amendment tonight is so I'll just read it out so that I'm happy. The motion is that Council endorses the draft Code of Practice, access to meetings and documents for the purpose of public consultation with the following amendments. At 6.2, access to the agenda for meetings, that the agenda will be provided electronically to members and on Council's website 5 days prior to the meeting, to a council meeting. If we could just have to a council meeting. A council meeting. Delivery of requested printed copies of the agenda and supporting documentation will be undertaken on the Friday morning. And B, at accountability and reporting in the annual report, add 16.1.6, attendance rates by the Mayor and council members at meetings of councils and committees. 2, notes that public consultation will commence with publication of the next edition of the Burnside Focus for a period of 21 days. And 3, considers the revised code of practice following consultation for adoption of the code. So I've moved this way so that we ensure that we, as the decision-making body, are provided with reasonable notice to enable us to prepare for our council meetings. Our community are also keenly interested in our decision-making, and particularly in the often contentious issues which take place from time to time, and we all know what they are. So publishing 5 days before the meeting is reasonable for our community to access, and it's also reasonable for us, for our very busy lives, for us to prepare for meetings. With our jobs, families, business responsibilities, and plus the odd hobby or other interests that we have. So this notice helps us organise for these often lengthy meetings. So that's all I'm asking for, is that we have 5 days, which is essentially from the Thursday evening to the Tuesday evening when we hold the meeting. We've got 5 days' notice. For the release of meeting minutes, I believe that 48 hours following a meeting is a reasonable turnaround, as the minutes are recorded as we go, as we are doing tonight, during meetings, and really just need to be proofread for release to council members for our perusal. Staff have built in 3 days into the code of practice, so if that makes life easier for them, as long as we have them by the late Friday following meetings, while our memories are fresh, this will, I think, work. But draft minutes are crucial for us to be able to read them, to know what decisions were made. We have very lengthy meetings, we cover a lot of ground, and it really does help if we get them quickly. So that's really, and I just added the annual report as a reminder, because last year's annual report left out the attendance rates for elected members at council for some reason. So I just thought I'd include that as a reminder to everybody. So hopefully you'll support this. Thanks.
Just before we move on, Councillor Davey, at meetings of council, and we don't actually have formalised committees, so it would just be members of council. Under B, under 1B. Oh, sorry, we do have the CEO committee. I forgot, you're right, absolutely. We do have that one. So, but it'd be council and, just drop the S. Or meetings of council and committees, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. That's fine, okay.
You have your CEO committee, we have risk and audit.
Yeah, I was wrong. Okay, I've apologised. I've said that needs to stay. Okay, Councillor Jones. Oh, sorry, you want to speak first?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just need to provide a comment. I think Councillor Davey and I are in furious agreement. It's just about the 5 days prior to a council meeting. Now, I've just had a look at the regulations, and it gives a definition of what clear days means. If it stays at 5 days, it means I have to give the agenda on the Wednesday. Now, if Councillor Davey's happy, I'm happy to work with changing it to Thursday, the Thursday prior, if you want to commit to the Thursday, rather than take the regs that state 4 days. It's just that if that says 5 days, I have to give you your agenda on the Wednesday.
Or make it the Thursday prior.
Yeah, if you're comfortable with that, that will help me out. Yep, thank you. Yep.
All right, Councillor Jones, you're happy to second this?
No, I have a question, if
Okay.
I may. Noting that under the Local Government Act, you only have to give 4 hours notice of a special meeting, how is this going to work?
You have to give 4 hours. What's the situation? How does that cover?
How are you going to give 5 days papers before a special meeting?
No, the legislation
It doesn't say that.
I had too many microphones on.
If there's a legislative position that's not dealt with in this motion, the legislation overrides.
Okay, but the legislation for ordinary meetings says you only need to give 3 days notice. So what's going to prevail?
Well, all I can tell you is the way I'll work with the legislation. Get the legislation in that case is a minimum standard. So council can request a longer notice period on that. But in terms of special meetings, which aren't covered here, I'm saying that when it says special meetings, as per the Act, I'd be compliant with the Act.
I think your concern is about the inclusion of the word special as opposed to general meetings. I was going to say, could we put the word ordinary in there, Councillor Davey? Correct? No, we've got. I think we might have a governance solution. Okay.
I've got a practical solution to Councillor Jones's concern. If we say excluding special meetings, does that provide the clarity?
Yeah. Sorry, don't worry about the word ordinary. It'll just be endorses the code with the, do you want to put it in after consultation, Councillor Davey? In the first line, second line? Purpose of public consultation with the exception of special meetings? Or excluding special meetings? Oh yeah, that's fine. Excluding special meetings. In
It's
A,
just really,
1A.
oh, we've got this back. Oh, thank God.
So just put it in 1A,
I just can't
Councillor Davey.
follow. Access to agenda for meeting.
In brackets,
excluding-
in 1A.
That the agenda will be brought in. Yes, I'm happy with that. If that makes it clear for everybody. Yes.
Thank you. So if we're clear with that, do I have a seconder? So David, could you just turn your microphone off, please? And Councillor Harvey,
Sorry?
you're next to speak. You wish to second?
Yes,
Right. Do you wish to speak?
I reserve my right. Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? All right, there's no one. So Councillor Davey, Councillor Harvey, you will need to speak now.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm in support of this. As someone that travels a lot, I find this very beneficial, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that travels. So I will support this motion. Thank you.
Right, Councillor Davey.
Thank you everyone for your help in refining this and for the CEO and the administration. Hopefully this all works and is very clear for us to be able to work with all the documentation that we receive in a timely manner and for our community to be able to access it and for the staff to be able to manage that. So hopefully that's the intent of this, that this is all in that position, all right for that, and that can go out for public consultation. Thank you.
Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Now Councillor Davey, 11.5, page 214.
Thank you, Mayor. This is our horticultural landscaping and beautification motion. I move that Council endorses the inclusion of $30,000 and deletes the equates to 0.1% rates increase. So endorses the inclusion of $30,000 in the final 23-24 budget and annual business plan for the completion of the proposed project detailed in this report, and receives a further report by the end of December. I thank the staff for this work and all the research that's gone into it. I just don't think it's right that we include, because we don't do it anywhere else, what equates to a percentage rates increase in this. That's the only reason that I've deleted that. I note that in the, as is mentioned in the report, the 2022 community survey, there was a reduction in satisfaction compared to the 2020 results in our care and the beautification of our parks, streets, and all of those things. I don't know that we actually specifically asked a question, but there were so many variables in this time. I don't necessarily agree that this results in outlier, because as a community representative on council, I constantly receive complaints about the condition of our streets and parks, particularly when plants die and are not replaced, about the extent of weeds, about how flower beds and roundabouts are maintained. So I think it's very timely that we go to this project. We also need some standards developed for management of these that we can all work to, so that we've got agreed standards for what our expectations are, and for those of the staff and the investments that we're making. So it's management standards and planting standards. So I'm very pleased at this recommendation, and I want to see us develop agreed service levels for these aspects of our parks, reserves, streets and roundabouts, plus the heritage aspects associated with these. The recommendation that at para 26 a consultant be engaged is a great idea. I think fresh eyes and suggestions would be a very welcome development. I would welcome meeting and engaging with the consultant, as has been proposed in the report, and I look forward to council receiving a report on the matter by the end of 2023. I think we could all provide input into this, and I hope that a consultant will be able to give staff some fresh eyes and fresh ideas, so that we can all work together to beautify Burnside to the expectation of our community. Thank you.
CEO?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just been pointed out to me why we alluded to the 0.1%. Due to the timing of these reports, so Council's just a few moments ago adopted a budget of 5.8%. If Council adopts this and doesn't specifically say it equates to a 0.1% increase, it means that we're going out to the community saying we're raising rates by 5.8% and doing this work. And at the minute, our budget's predicated on a zero surplus, and this would drive us into a
5.9.
small deficit. If we leave the 0.1 in there, it would mean we would effectively be able to go out to a community in the draft budget at 5.9 and have that funded in there. Does it make sense what I just said?
So why is this project being chosen as being outside the budget?
Because we didn't have the information at the time we formulated the budget, so we didn't know what this was going to cost at the time of formulating the budget. So I'm just sharing that at this stage the 30,000 is not in the draft budget, because if it was, we wouldn't be considering this report. If Council adopts it with the 0.1 included there, it'll essentially mean we'll be going over 5.9. If you don't wish to raise the rates, it means we're going out with a $30,000 deficit in the budget, if you want to leave the rates at 5.8%.
Can I ask a question? Can we do this work in-house?
I think the reason for we asked ourselves that question, but we really do need a resource to do this work properly and to buy the expertise in to do it justice.
So, Councillor Wilkins, are you seconding this motion?
I'm not going to second this motion, because I don't believe that we should be spending the 30K on a consultant. I'd be happy to support the motion if it was 30K being spent on extra hours for those who are currently employed.
So you're not seconding it?
No, I'm not going to second it.
Is there someone who wishes, Councillor Sorry, Councillor Turnbull, you wish to second it?
I'll second it, but I reserve my right. But I do have a question.
Well, then ask the question now.
On page 221, and it was alluded to by Councillor Davey, it's proposed that a consultant's contracted to undertake this work in the 2023-24 financial year. A meeting with each set of ward councillors and the Mayor separately to discuss expectations and establish desired delivery standards and service levels. My question is, why wait? Surely there's someone in our organisation who could do it now, like this year, please.
Just turn your mic off while we're waiting for an answer.
Would you like me to answer that question?
Yes, please.
Now, just to reflect, the question was why couldn't we do in-house? I would love to say I've got a staff member ready at hand to do it, but I simply don't. Our staff are fully engaged. That is the reason why I'm asking for external expertise. Unfortunately, I haven't got someone with the ability, with the time free to do this justice. So, whichever way we do it, we do need to find the funds to employ someone externally.
Right, so we have a seconder. Is there anyone wishes to speak? Wilkins, you technically have already spoken.
Oh, sorry, yes. I was going to ask a question, actually.
That's fine.
Keep that page open. On page 280, we have a list of people who are positions that are currently being sought applicants for. Could one of those people be engaged in this process?
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I'm not understanding the question. Could you please just rephrase that?
Vacant positions, page 280.
Yep, certainly, I'm on there.
Could not one of those people in those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 positions that are currently open but obviously not being recruited, when they are, could one of those people have those extra skills that are needed?
Yep. Thank you for that clarification, Councillor Wilkins. Madam Mayor, the kind of consultant we're going to need to take this role really is a specific skill set. These positions that we've listed here, and I won't run through them, no. but they won't have the skill set that we need. I appreciate what you're trying to achieve, but again, if we're going to do this body of work, you do it right and get a quality report for consideration. I would hate to go into this process and not do it justice, and then have the quality of the workmanship called into question. That's kind of where I'm going with this. If we're going to do this, I want to do it well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Right, Councillor Jones.
I am regrettably going to have to vote against this motion. This would be a new record for us to have approved a budget 15 minutes ago and 15 minutes later be adding expenditure to it. We've still got a month and a half before 30 June. We expect on previous year's experience there'll be a lot more stuff still sneaking into the budget, but I think after 15 minutes I've still got the backbone to say no to this. However worthy it may be, and I'm going to have to harden my heart, I hope you will too, because otherwise by the time we come to 30 June the rate rise will be 11.5% and we'll be employing 300 people. So please say no.
Councillor Dawes?
Yes, I was trying to work out what our budget is. This is a multi-million-dollar budget. For heaven's sake, we're talking about 30,000. Now, surely we can ask the CEO to find $30,000 so we still finish up with a balanced budget somewhere in the organisation. Whether it be, as Councillor Wilkins said, we delay a person for a couple of months, or I'm not too sure. But if it was 100,000 or 300,000, I would say, I'm with you here, I'm with you. But for 30,000, can't we, CEO, please find something there that would still enable us to do this? Because this is about service levels. And that's what we've been worried about for the last 4 years, since I've been on council. Have we got that right? So I'll be happy to support, but only if we can have a corresponding decrease somewhere else. So I'm kind of half with Councillor Jones and half with Councillor Davies. I'm looking at the CEO here.
That's right.
Councillor... Sorry.
Madam Mayor, if I just respond.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do appreciate your thoughts there. However, the question is, when do we stop saying it's only 30,000?
Yeah, I know. Already said no to this.
The team, and as a collective, I think we've worked really hard to bring this budget into the position it's in now. Using your argument to Councillor Dawes, we're currently budgeting for zero. If Council adopts this, we'll have the budget at a slight deficit of $30,000. So I'm sorry, but I can't commit to just find you the money. Because it's a very slippery slope, and before you know it, I've tried to find money from all over the place. And the organisation has been doing this year on year for a number of years. And the bucket is dry. I'll be asking my team to do things that aren't fair of them. I'm sorry.
Councillor Davey, you have a question?
I certainly do. I note that this motion was brought to council in February 2023. So I'll just let that go. But I also, just following on from Councillor Dawes' question, ask, is there any possibility for this to be managed before the end of this financial year with savings from this year's budget? Bearing in mind that we did flag it back in February, and one could ask why provision wasn't made in the budget for this potential consultant.
Just give me a few moments, Madam Mayor. Just need to consult with Karishma.
Councillor Wilkins, I assume you have a question.
Oh, no. Have I already spoken?
Yes, you have.
Oh, thank you.
Identifies the resources required for the horticultural work.
I'm going to ask, can I volunteer?
We do guerrilla work. Guerrilla gardeners, let loose.
That's a good word, but
I know, I do it already, but don't tell them that.
But no, I think we need the expert as they've identified.
Yeah, but honestly, it's a whole year.
Yeah, I'm going to.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry for the delay, councillors. Councillor Davey, the first part of your question about why did it take so long, I'm going to have to apologise for that. That's our mistake, and I have to wear that. We should have dealt with it sooner. The second part of it, could we find the money in this year? The budget for this this year is already in deficit, budgeted position, but we are in deficit, so I haven't got a surplus to spend. My best advice to council is, at this stage, is to run with your 5.8. If this is your wish to do this budget, run with your 5.8. Adopt the budget with a very, in the scheme of $42 million, a very minor deficit, and then we'll just have to monitor the budget as we run through the year. If there are opportunities present themselves, I'm not going to commit to finding it, but if opportunities do present themselves, there may be an opportunity to make that back. But as I say, my best advice, if you wish to do this, is stick with your 5.8, and we'll go out with a very minor deficit for this year. Thanks.
So where does this project sit?
If this gets adopted this evening, this project... thank you for that. It's just prompted another part of my answer. In terms of timing, because we are so close to June, and I will have to go through a procurement process to engage a consultant, even if I engage them today, I wouldn't get them before the end of the financial year. So the project would come into our list of projects to complete in the coming financial year in terms of timing for delivery. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Wilkins, you have a question.
So therefore, my question is, we would be waiting another 12 months before we see improvements in our streetscapes, in our parks, in our roundabouts. Is this correct? If so, can I volunteer a day to do some work? Because it's getting
Question,
pretty urgent.
Councillor Wilkins. All right. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question, and that is, I'd just like to understand why have the service levels with spending been reduced in 2022 as opposed to 2020 and 2018? Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, what do you mean service levels reduced?
Page 215. Providing and maintaining street trees, providing and maintaining footpaths.
Survey.
Yeah, through Madam Mayor, that's the as part of the community satisfaction survey. I think there's about 800 members of the community that get asked to respond on what their opinion is of our service delivery. So this is their opinion of those services. So the council hasn't decreased its service levels. It's the community, how the community is perceiving our service levels.
Can't you?
Out of 10. So on any scale,
I was going to ask them.
they're exceptional results.
But obviously there is a problem.
Question, please. Otherwise, you are debating.
I'm going to have to disagree with that, Madam Mayor.
Sorry?
Just because these results dip and ebb and flow doesn't mean there's a problem.
No.
There's a whole lot of factors that can come into play.
Thank you.
So do you wish to speak? No. Okay. Councillor Davey, do you have another question?
Yes, I do, thanks. Just based on what the CEO's response was to my earlier queries, should I include that bracketed amount equates to 0.1% rates increase bracket back into the motion? Will that make any difference? If you wanted that to stand out in terms of...
So, through Madam Mayor, if that was included, that would mean we would go out to the community with 5.9 and a zero bottom line instead of a very...
Oh, no, well, I'll leave it. Thank you.
So I think my original suggestion is probably the best way to go.
So leave it at this and proceed.
Right, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? There's no one else on my screen, so I'm going back to Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you everyone for your input. I accept the situation we're in, and I do want to respect the work that's been done for us to get to 5.8% increase. I think that's really crucial, even though I originally said I'd like to and for hire, but I accept the vote and the decision of council in that. I think it is really unfortunate that this was forgotten in the whole budget deliberations, because we put the motion up in February and it should have been included in the thinking and the design of the budget. So it's a real shame that that has been overlooked. We do need this. We do need service level standards and a determination to actually work through these issues, because we all know, we get feedback from our community that these levels and standards need to improve. So I'm going to support this. I hope you will. We'll keep it at least on the books, and I would hope that we can find $30,000 somewhere sooner or later to get this consultant to do the work, so that we can actually keep beautifying our streets and develop those important service levels. Thank you.
All those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Division's been called. Those who've supported the motion, please stand. Councillors Jennings, Wilkins, Davey, Harvey, Hallett, Turnbull and Dawes. Those against? Councillors Hubel, Jones and Zing. Thank you. Next one is Councillor Davey. No, I'm going to suggest that we have a 10-minute break at this point in time.
I move.
You'd like to move it? Right. Second, those in favour? Thank you. 10 minutes. We start again at 9:16. Councillor Davey? 11.8, page 268.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to move in accordance with the recommendation and thank the staff for the report. I just had a couple of questions. And they are in relation to on page 275, capital projects, the creek rehabilitation works. Whereabouts are they? And I had assumed that we had a stage 4 lot of creek rehab works in Hazelwood Park, and I wonder if these are those, or if not, why not? And the other one is playgrounds again, where we've got year-to-date expenditure of $47,000, 19% in progress, and I'm just wondering which playgrounds are being upgraded at the moment. Thanks.
Through Madam Mayor, I'll refer that to Mr Harvey. Those 2 questions, please.
Through the Mayor, I'll take the first one regarding the creek rehabilitation. That is not what occurred in Hazelwood Park a couple of years ago. That was revegetation of the creek embankment and bed. The rehabilitation is about strengthening of creek lines in terms of being able to take increased flows during high flow events. I'll have to take that on notice and come back to you as to where they are, so I'll do that. And the same with the playgrounds. I can take that on notice and come back to you and advise you where those are.
Thank you.
Councillor Zing?
Thank you. I'm seconding, yeah, I'm seconding. Just a question as well, sorry.
You can have a question if that's what you prefer.
Yeah. Just page 275 as well. I was wondering what CI stands for, what project that was in relation to, the CI anyway.
CI anywhere.
Yeah. Through Madam Mayor, I'll offer that to Ms Reynolds.
Through the Mayor, it's the Tech One module, so it's essentially Council's enterprise resource platform, and CI is basically cloud integrated.
Did you wish to withhold your opportunity to second? Councillor Zing? No, but do you wish to speak now or reserve your right to speak later? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Davey, yes, Councillor Davey, you have a question?
Another question, thanks. On page 274, under new and upgrades, there's a Penfold Park Playground increased scope for 228k, 91% in progress. I thought that park had been completed, so can I just have some clarification, please, about what's happening there? Thanks.
Through Madam Mayor, if I can refer that to Mr Harvey or Ms Reynolds.
Through the Chair, yes, the park or the playground installation redevelopment has finished, but it's a matter of timing in terms of when the invoices come in from the contractor.
Councillor Hallett?
I've got a question in regard to the $80,000 for the Dulwich fit out. I couldn't see that anywhere, unless it's included in that major projects, Dulwich Community Centre redevelopment. But what we were told previously is that it wasn't, it had been left out of that. So I'm just saying, where is it? Where's the $80,000 for the fit out?
Yeah, so through Madam Mayor, the $80,000 for the fit out will appear in our next year's budget.
Okay.
That was, because that was our conversation. We said it was missed out of the current financial year.
Okay, so that went into next year's budget?
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Zing, you have another question? Sorry, Councillor Hallett, can you turn your mic off, please?
Just in the spirit of road safety, I was wondering what our traffic calming program consists of.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I can refer that to Mr Harvey.
Through the Mayor, and thank you to my colleague. The breakdown there is for Coach Road, which is a driveway link work, which is currently at the end of its design, ready to be implemented. The modification of the Prescott Grant Avenue roundabout, the Sydney Street Wombat crossing upgrade, and the Winchester Lane traffic calming. Awesome.
Councillor Zing, I need you to speak to second the motion.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to second the motion and thank staff in terms of their work on the finance end of month report.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Davey, do you wish to have anything more to say?
No, I'm happy to put the motion.
Right,
Thanks.
I'll put the motion then. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. The next one is Councillor Davey, the Chief Executive Report, page 277.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to move in accordance with the recommendation. And I just had a couple of queries. Just wanted to clarify about the public consultation on the pump track, which I believe is imminent, but I don't think there's any mention in here. And I just wondered if we could have clarification that that's going ahead next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In fact, Mr Harvey and I were reviewing the pump track consultation this afternoon. There's an email that will come out to all elected members tomorrow. I'm pleased to say that we received some broad feedback from elected members about their thoughts about the initial proposal, and I have 6 locations as a result of that that we're looking to go back out to the community with and looking at them, and these will be my famous last words. I think the elected body will be comfortable with those 6 locations. I did say they were famous last words. Yes, but yes, you will receive an email tomorrow confirming the progress on that matter.
Okay, Councillor Davey, you wish to sum up or?
Just another thank you for the attachments to the CEO report. Much appreciated. The reports, lists and requests to council, the resolutions and all the upcoming workshops and agendas. So that's a great help. So hopefully we'll support this. Thank you.
Sorry, it wasn't a summing up. I now need a seconder. Councillor, need to have someone on the screen. Councillor Turnbull, you wish to second it? Do you wish to have anything to say? Well, I think you have. It's now. You have nothing else to add? Right, then Councillor Davey, do you have anything to add? Right, then I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carry. Now we move to motions on notice, and the first one is Councillor Zing, Road Safety, City of Burnside, which was the subject of the deputation earlier tonight. 13.1, page 295.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to speak in support of the motion that Council write to the Ministers to request that the State Government take urgent action with regard to road safety in Burnside, particularly as it pertains to students and children. On March 22nd, our community came within an inch of tragedy. A single act of carelessness almost cost 2 16-year-olds their lives. Thankfully, it appears they'll pull through. This was a wake-up call. We're lucky it wasn't a disaster. But that doesn't mean we can just breathe a sigh of relief and move on. Since this accident, I've had parents and grandparents raise their concerns about the safety of our local roads. When an accident like this happens in our community, it is our responsibility to understand and to act. That's what local residents expect. While we await the outcome of the police investigation, the incident nevertheless raises important questions as to the safety of the crossing in question, as well as other similar crossings used daily by students. In particular, the infrastructure at the Kensington Road pedestrian crossing that should be audited and inspected includes 1. The advance warnings given to drivers that they are approaching a school zone at which students are likely to be crossing. 2. The visibility of the traffic lights for drivers. And 3. The ability of pedestrians to clearly see oncoming vehicles when traffic is backed up on Kensington Road. A further key part of the motion is that a safety audit be supported by information sessions that reinforce effective road safety principles. As a council, we can impact road safety in many ways. This can be practical in terms of improving safety on the roads council owns and manages, but just as importantly, our role is to advocate for funding, legislative changes and services to support road safety. This motion aims to fill this key function, and I hope you'll support it.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Harvey, do you wish to speak or withhold?
I'll reserve my rights, thank you.
Right. Councillor Harvey? Councillor Hubel, your name was there but that was gone, okay. So I have no one else here, so Councillor Harvey, no, Councillor Turnbull.
Sorry at the last minute. Just like to ask a question, really. Couldn't this be in collaboration with the Education Department? You're writing to the Minister of Transport, but it's actually educational. Number 2, host the road safety communities, seminars and forums for children, etc. Sorry?
It's there already.
Oh, right.
Number 1.
Yeah, but is that in conjunction with the Education Department? Because when I was a teacher in the olden days, we also did road safety at school. We had people coming in. Yeah. So I just wondered if that should be mentioned.
It is, Councillor. It's in the first part of the motion. First sentence of the motion.
Local schools in Burnside.
No, the two top.
Boots and toners and Goya.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that bit.
Right, Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, a question for administration, probably through the CEO to Mr Harvey. Are there currently any discussions between our traffic engineer and any state department about any issues that Councillor Zing has raised in regard to local schools in Burnside?
Through Madam Mayor, just refer that to Mr Harvey. I'm not aware of any.
Through the Mayor, no, there are no current conversations we're having with state government about school crossings.
I don't have anyone. Councillor Dawes, you wish to speak now?
No, a second
or
question.
Ask a question, okay.
It was a very unfortunate accident on Kensington Road. I understand all that, but are there any concerns then? Perhaps I'll change the question. Any concerns from the administration on any particular road near our many schools that this motion would help?
Through Madam Mayor, as it stands, we don't have any fundamental concerns. I think the principle of this motion is that the nature of these crossings, they're a state government responsibility, and it's important that the council, rather than accepts a cost shift from state to local government, pushes back on the state government to have a focus on this issue.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you. I thank Councillor Zing for his motion. This was, as we can all acknowledge, a very unfortunate incident at a site which deals with huge volumes of traffic. I don't know what they are currently, and we're probably about to find out with our Marrittville Master Plan, which will help us look at the whole, that area virtually from there to Glimburn Road. It is huge volumes of road, and it was a very unfortunate incident. I'm very pleased that the students survived. But it worries me that we don't have any, and I acknowledge this is a state government road. I just wonder why we couldn't have more collaboration between state and local governments, because of course one side of this road is Norwood, Payneham and St Peters Council, and the other side is, well, it's actually both are in Norwood area, although they just abut onto our area. And of course the students are fed from all all around. I just wonder if there's any mechanism we could have in place where we have some local meetings with both government departments and SAPOL, because we heard earlier in the deputation the gentleman spoke about his concerns on Portrush Road, whether there's some sort of local road safety collaboration that we could introduce or initiate.
So through Madam Mayor, we certainly have contacts and communication points into the departments where, because there are times where we do become aware of safety issues. So where we become aware of particular issues, we do have conversations. So there are linkages there already. And I think in fairness to Councillor Zing, very quick off the mark, brought this to our attention in terms of this proposed motion. Ideally what I perceive will happen here is should this get up this evening, is, you know, that will trigger some conversations anyway between ourselves and the state government. Hopefully they come through with the funding for it, but I'm sure I can see us perhaps assisting, you know, working together with them on this perhaps. I commend Councillor Zing for his approach, because it does just put I didn't want it to be perceived that this was a City of Burnside issue that we hadn't addressed. It was important that we show it clearly that it is a state government issue, and I certainly accept that we'll work collaboratively with the government, that's for sure.
Councillor Dawes.
A third question. So I'm looking at Burnside Primary School, which is in our ward, so therefore High Street, we have the zigzag lines, and Young Street and all around it, and then Linden Park's got Hay Street, I think, and so forth. Are we responsible as a council for servicing those, and the only ones that the state government are responsible for are those on major roads? Is that a fair assumption?
Through Madam Mayor, just refer that to Mr. Harvey.
Through the Mayor, those that are connected to traffic signals are invariably managed by the state government. They normally sit on state roads. The crossings that you're referring to, Wombats and other crossings of that nature, we do manage, although the infrastructure that sits within them is owned by state government. So we do manage those, and where issues are brought to our attention, we do, as a matter of course, to our daily operations, undertake to correct those issues.
Thank you for that. So I can now speak. Yes. I just wanted to ask Councillor Zing whether we could, a third person, and I believe that Mr. Cusantona doesn't believe it's his responsibility, and Joe, and I can't say his last name, is SZAL, whatever, I think he's the Minister for Road Safety or something like that. Can we also include him in the motion, the Minister, whatever he is for? Because I think he might be the responsible minister.
Especially when the resident who spoke earlier tonight said that he got the letter sent back basically from the First Minister stated.
Yep. Happy to support that variation and write to Joe Sockarch.
Does that include that in the motion then, please? We can fill in the title later, but yeah,
And road safety.
exactly.
Road safety, yeah.
And police.
Yeah, road safety.
All right, Councillor Davey, you're next. Question?
Thank you. I just had another question. Is this something, because we've got two areas in our council that we're just discussing tonight, major highways and schools. Norwood, Payneham and St Peters is involved in this. Is this something that the Eastern Region Alliance could look at in terms of across all those eastern suburbs, everybody's dealing with these huge volumes of traffic, and whether there couldn't be some sort of extra lobby or clout if you as collectively were able to be involved in lobbying as well as this group? Just occurred to me that might be a useful venue.
Through Madam Mayor, I certainly think it's worth a conversation with the group. Yeah, I'm happy to work with the Mayor and raise it for their consideration.
Councillor Wilkin?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'm just about to suggest that the CEO, when he writes this letter, also copies in, CCs the CEO and the Mayor of Norwood, Payneham and St Peters, and I would also suggest that you CC in the local member, Jack Batty, as well. So everybody is aware of what we're all trying to do.
Councillors.
Can the CEO provide a commitment he will provide a letter to?
Wait a minute. Councillor Wilkins, have you finished?
Yes, I have.
Turned your microphone off. Now, Councillor Zing, do you have another question?
Can the CEO offer a commitment the letter will be circulated to us?
Yeah, through Madam Mayor, that would happen as a matter of course.
Right.
Yes, I do. Yes, thank you, Mayor. I will support this motion. I think anything that will highlight safety awareness, help calm speed, hoon driving and safety on our roads needs to be supported. Education is the key from school children upwards to highlight road safety. With far more high-powered cars and heavy trucks on our roads and distractions from using mobile phones whilst driving, I feel this can't come soon enough. Times have changed at such a fast pace and we need more public awareness around road safety and keeping our community and children and school children protected. I commend Councillor Zing for bringing this motion to the table. As Daniel said in his deputation this evening, what if it was my child injured crossing the road? What a dreadful thought. I think we all need to think and reflect what if it was our children, our grandchildren or our relative crossing that road. Thank you.
Just before I ask Councillor Zing to sum up, I just want to make a couple of comments. There are a large number of elderly people who use that Portrush Road crossing during the day as well as the peak time when there are many, many young people and elderly people collecting their children and grandchildren. Speeding is a major issue on that road, and it is also one of the places where they have the highest collection of fines in metropolitan Adelaide are collected at that red light camera. I was talking about Portrush Road one, okay? No, the Portrush Road one has one of the highest in metropolitan area of fines collected for people speeding. The other issue that I think is really important in this is the issue of the B-doubles, and this is where we go back to all the time, the huge volume of B-doubles travelling on that road, many of them at speed because they go past me, and day and night. And I think anything that we can do in terms of road safety is an important matter. But it does, a lot of this on Portrush Road anyway, goes back to this issue of the B-doubles. Councillor Zing.
Thank you, Your Worship. This motion is about giving residents the confidence that we're doing all we can to keep our people safe on our streets. We will have a role to play in ensuring community safety, and the City of Burnside should be leading from the front. We have a precious commodity, engaged and knowledgeable local residents who care deeply about their community. We have an opportunity to leverage their ideas and channel their passions in order to make our streets safer and make sure that this terrible accident can have a positive legacy. I commend this motion.
Thank you. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The next one is Councillor Davey, page 297.
Thank you, Mayor. This motion on notice was deferred from the last meeting, so I'll represent it tonight. I'll read it out in case you haven't had a chance to read it. That Council, in addition to the design work presently underway for the George Bolton Swimming Centre... Okay. Okay, thank you. Council first considered a draft of the concept design for the plant room extension work in February. And you remember we made a decision at a meeting in February with a set of plans that we were shown, which showed a really, and Barry Cant, who's not with us tonight, and his team had gone to a huge amount of work to try to not impact too much in a footprint on the swimming centre itself and also the adjacent footprint of Hazelwood Park, highly utilised. Subsequent feedback from a lot of the local residents, especially those who live on Hawthorn Close, and as well as many park users and swimming centre users, has raised concerns with me about the height and bulk of the proposed design that we were given. The fact that it's very close to a really old river red gum tree, and also that there might be a significant impact on the goat track, that walking track that many of us walk our dogs along between the creek and the swimming centre, which is just a lovely little area through all the greenery. And so Barry Cant and his team have agreed that it would be beneficial to re-look at some further design work. And there's an opportunity now with, if council supports this motion, for additional high-level concept designs to be produced by the consultant for the information of us at the May workshop. So this motion has been, for all the design work, has been developed by the administration. So this would give our community the fact that we're actually looking at this and there are possibilities for alternatives, would give the community a lot of confidence that we're looking at alternatives, especially those who are concerned about noise emanating from plant in a very high building overlooking their homes, which are about 50 metres away in Hazelwood Close. So hopefully you'll support this and that we can have a look at some more detailed designs at our next workshop. Thank you.
Councillor Zing, you seconding?
I am seconding.
Do you wish to speak now?
I do wish to speak. Thank you, Mayor. Very happy to second this motion. I too have received feedback from different residents regarding the updated size and structure for the proposed design. I believe this motion will provide members with a more holistic view of different options to consider in the entirety, and hope you all support this motion.
Councillor Dord.
A question for administration. So we're going to lose a tree anyhow if this is the preferred design. And I just want to know something about that tree. I was going to look at the tree this week and I didn't, because the other design we could lose a heritage eucalyptus, as I understand. So could you just explain to the council a little bit about the tree that we could lose if we go with this design?
I can explain it because I go there 3 times a week. It's also a tree that rarely anyone sits under. It is a relatively dead space on the, if you go into the centre and you're facing the opposite side of the pool, it is the one tree on the left-hand side of the building. It's on its own. It's not regulated or significant. It is a large tree. Just as well it's not the one at the back though, because the tree behind the building is far more significant and far more important. And talking with the manager, that the removal of that tree actually could help the tree behind the building survive better. It's a eucalypt, but what particular eucalypt Mr. Harvey can tell us.
Through the mayor, is a spotted gum. Yep.
Commonly known as spotted gum. Right. It is a tree that does not actually provide a lot of shade within the swimming centre, I have to say. What shade is there tends to come from the building or the big tree that's behind the centre building. The tree's on the other side of the creek. Yeah, on the other side of the creek. All right, Councillor Jones.
Can you tell me how many black yellow-tailed cockatoos live in this tree?
I can tell just a few magpies, that's all, and minor birds. Anyone else who wishes to speak?
So, through,
I said the answer's no, because they actually don't like those kind of trees. Yeah. Okay, so is there anyone who wishes to speak? I have no one on the screen, so I'm going to go back to Councillor Davey.
Thank you, everybody, for your input and for the information about the trees. It would be sad to lose a tree. It's not that well, it is, but it's not a really ancient tree, and it is one that I think we could replace. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think
Neither can we.
in the interest of compromise, and because we've got a big challenge ahead of us. We've got to upgrade our pool, you know, to improve solar heating. I mean, we've got to get rid of the gas heating to upgrade it all to improve our. Yes, so I'm just looking at all the options, but the residents don't want to be impacted. They don't want this high structure with lots of noise. So I'm sure we've got a wonderful design consultant who can give us some options, alternates to think about when we workshop the idea. So hopefully you'll support this, and Barry Cant can come back from his holidays. We've made the decision and he can just go with it. Thank you.
Thank you. I put the motion. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Now, I don't think we've got anything else, have we? Have I lost something? Right, here it is. That, I think, is it. So, unless there's any urgent business, I declare the meeting closed at 9:48 p.m.
Thank you.